resume recording. So we're now recording. And so, yes, if you could put everything on mute, that would be great. So there it is. Are we ready, everybody?
Yes. Yep.
Excellent. So good morning. So the purpose of today's presentation is to give you a bit of an overview of CURO. The way we tend to work is we will firstly ask some questions about your business, so you can tell us about your major challenges. For the sake of this presentation, we won't be, for obvious reasons, but that's the normal approach. So we get the firm to tell us a little bit about their challenges and what issues they'd like to see addressed, and that gives us some good background as to the the commercial issues that they have to deal with on a day-by-day. What I then do is I then tell individuals a little bit about our background, time for advice, where we came from, and then we go through and introduce CURO, which will initially look at CURO through Outlook and how it interacts with Outlook. We'll then do a fly past of CURO via a browser, so we can look at the navigation and how that all hangs together, before finishing off with what I call putting some petrol in the engine and just showing what can be achieved when we start deploying process and document automation to speed up the operations of the business. In terms of background, we started Time for Advice in 2010, really in response to the retail distribution review. Prior to that, myself, my business partner, Mitchell Philpott, we were owners of a company called Key Software, which we set up in '95. Before that, we were IFAs, so we've been around the industry since 1982. So we've had a lot of experience, both as practitioners and also as software providers. And as I say, we sold the business, Key Software, to Capita at the end of 2005, and then after a suitably polite time, set up Time for Advice because we felt that the world was moving on and we wanted to really deliver something of value to the post-RDR world. Now we're 9 years old. We feel we're pretty much at the launch pad. There's been a massive amount of investment in CURO over the period, about 30 man-years so far in the development of CURO. And clearly, we feel that we're now sort of at a stage to come onto the front foot. We're not a mass market provider. We're not looking for thousands of firms to do business with. We're looking at thousands of users, clearly, but our target market is really the top 500 firms in the UK, so that we can work in partnership with these businesses to deliver real value. And that's the primary driver as far as we're concerned. In terms of motivation for change, why would a business want to change? I think we can distill that down into three core functions. At the end of the day, in a post-RDR service-oriented business, it's all about delivering a proper review service that is tangible and that adds value. And technology is really there to support the development of a business. It's not the reason in its own. And there are really three drivers, as I say, for changing. And I think the first one is it's about how we can help firms deliver better customer outcomes, better client outcomes, so that the firm can deliver the service in a much more reliable way and ensures a consistent output for their clients, so that their clients value the service they're getting. The next driver for change, we believe, is for increasing capacity, increasing the ability to service more clients and generate more business, so boosting profit through increased efficiency. And then the third area is to manage risk better, to reduce risk by designing risk out of the process. And so I think if we're able to increase or improve customer outcomes, boost profit through increased efficiency and reduce risk, then the consequence of that for the business is simply you have a more valuable business. So those are the business drivers for change. And as I say, we see a lot of frustration generally in the market by people who are using systems that were designed on the previous transactional business model, trying to make them fit their business, and it simply isn't working for them. And so if we now explore what clients actually, or what we see when we visit clients, then this is the challenge that every business that we meet seems to be suffering. Firstly, every firm we meet has one of the legacy back office systems, one of the usual suspects. And of course, if we think about where they came from, all of these solutions were built in the mid-90s to the early noughties, and they were built around the transactional business model. That means they're designed to record the sale of plans, remuneration reconciliation, valuations, and then some compliance reporting. What they are not are what we would call CRM systems or client relationship management systems in the global sense. What they don't allow you to do easily is segment your clients, communicate the right message at the right time. And so people are forced into compromise. And we then now see the journey towards Excel hell, as I like to call it, with the expansion of the technology stack to try to support the broader requirements of a post-RDR business, starting with, for example, a digital marketing platform. So a lot of businesses will go out and buy something like MailChimp, HubSpot, .mailer, there are loads of them, in order to facilitate better communication. The problem with these systems is they don't integrate with the back office system, and so now you end up with two technologies containing client data, and trying to keep those in sync is challenging. Further compounded by the fact that businesses feel they need to fulfill their TCF obligations and get client feedback. Neither of those do that particularly well, and so they go and buy a third piece of technology called SurveyMonkey. And now we have three systems containing client data, and any thought of keeping those in sync has just gone out the window. Now, for whatever reason, most firms don't tend to implement their technology particularly well, possibly because they're sold on the idea that they're easy to use and they don't need much training. And so what we see happening is people reverting to the familiar. And it's now that we see the proliferation of Excel spreadsheets, Word templates, and of course there's Outlook in the mix as well. And so we end up with this nightmare scenario where the most valuable asset of a business, their data, is spread like a rash across the face of the business. And trying to grow a business, trying to scale a business when confronted with this scenario is difficult enough. In fact, the only way of doing it effectively is throw more resources at it. And the problem with that, of course, is it simply exacerbates the problem. In a post-GDPR world, this then represents a significant threat because as data controllers, owning responsibility for your data is absolutely the heart of everything you should do. Yet when you've lost control of your data in this sort of Excel hell, that becomes a challenge. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, so what do we believe? Well, we believe that actually for businesses to be effective, for businesses to be efficient, to, if you like, fulfill the principal drivers as rehearsed earlier, they need a source of one truth, one place where their data is held in a highly structured way, where they can segment their clients appropriately so they can communicate the right message at the right time to the right people, where yes, of course, they can record the sale of plans, they can reconcile their remuneration, they can get valuations, but those valuations are output in their own documents, presented the way they want them in their brand, where they can leverage process and document automation to drive business efficiency, and where they can take a view on their business through real efficient and effective management information and business intelligence. And by having everything in that single truth, then the journey to, if you like, that business efficiency that we were describing earlier is absolutely the way forward. So one truth. Now, in order to facilitate this, what we did is we really came back to market with a completely different mindset to when we started business, for example, in '95. In '95, there were no enterprise client relationship management technologies that we could leverage. So all of us had to build proprietary software. Of course, in 2010, we're looking at a very different technical framework with a number of major providers launching enterprise client relationship management technologies. And we reviewed the market and alighted on the Microsoft Dynamics CRM platform as the foundation of CURO. The reason why we selected Microsoft over Salesforce and the various other solutions that we operated was that, firstly, Microsoft promoted Dynamics very much as their XRM platform, where X can be whatever you want it to be. In other words, it's a development framework. Microsoft, of course, is the largest software company in the world, and they invest something like $2 billion a year in R&D to continually maintain and improve the relevancy of their software in this very rapid global market. They service currently in excess of 5 million people using the Microsoft Dynamics solution, and some of the firms that they support are some of the largest businesses in the world. So the foundation of CURO is this enterprise platform called Microsoft Dynamics CRM, and that gives us an enormous head start in terms of capability, as hopefully you'll see. What we've then done, because out of the box Dynamics is irrelevant for our industry, we've effectively removed everything that is not of value to us and basically rebuilt it, leveraging the Dynamics platform to create a solution that would be immediately recognized as a solution fit for the financial advice market. So that's the background, that's the technology that we're using. Also, lessons learned from our key software days, and there were many lessons learned, as you could probably appreciate, is that it's impossible to be all things to all men. We cannot develop anything other than our core focus, which is CURO. So in order to extend the capability of CURO to address some of the key demands and needs of our clients, we collaborate, and we collaborate with a number of global solution providers to extend the capability of CURO. Experido, you'll see as part of this presentation, is an incredibly powerful Microsoft Word template solution builder that allows us to create pretty much unlimited client reports referencing all of the data or any of the data within the system presented exactly the way you want it. Those can then be routed, those documents can then be routed electronically for the client for signature via DocuSign, for example. And we found, because we use exactly the same technology to run Time for Advice, that these two solutions alone save a significant amount of time, especially when it comes to the use of DocuSign, whereas before we were forever chasing the return of documents to be signed by clients. Now they come back often within minutes. Fully integrated with Office 365 and Outlook, so it provides a powerful way of aggregating data, emails, etc., into that one truth, and then extending the capability. So if for those firms that want a very strong digital marketing capability, integration with Click Dimensions, which we consider to be the big daddy of digital marketing, insofar as it's deployed as part of the CURO solution and fully references the client records within the system, so there is one aggregated truth back against the client record. Power BI is the foundation of CURO Business Intelligence, which we'll look at very briefly as we go through this presentation, but this gives clients an opportunity to see their business as they've never seen it before, and fully integrated telephony, we use RingCentral in this instance. When it comes to financial services integrations, again, we have integrated CURO with CashCalc. This is about to be launched, a two-way deep integration with CashCalc. Voyant at the moment is a one-way data push, although we are talking to Voyant about a two-way integration leveraging their newly released APIs. We have integrations with Financial Express, Money Info, iPipeline, Smart Search, and O&M. The iPipeline, Smart Search, and O&M integrations fully leverage our application program interfaces and deliver deep data-to-data integrations with a smooth flow of data and documents between the two platforms, and you'll see this as we go on. And this really sets the standard for all future integrations. In terms of portal, although we have an integration with Money Info, we're currently looking at our own proof of concept to extend CURO to deliver numerous views, whether it be to the end consumer, introducers, and other third parties to reference data synchronously with CURO. So again, a deep integration with our own portal in due course. Watch this space. In terms of coming soon, we have a long list of third parties that we're working with, such as Zenith One, which leverages artificial intelligence to massively streamline the KYC reporting process, plus a whole lot more. And again, looking at our website and looking out for news, you'll be learning more and more of the third parties that we're integrating it with. The key thing about all of this is at the heart of everything we do is this single truth in CURO. So, in summary, what we do is we focus all of our effort on the development of CURO. We listen to our clients, we record all of the suggestions, and over time, the developments appear in our core solution. We then work with our clients during the implementation phase to help evolve your CURO, where you can deploy your dashboards, your processes, your documents, and obviously gain essential management information and business intelligence. Every time we upgrade core CURO, your CURO remains unaffected, which means incrementally and over time you have a system that works the way you want it to work. That is the introduction. What I'd like to do now, if I may, is go on and have a look at CURO initially through the Outlook, and then what we'll do is we will look at the browser version and move on from there. So this is CURO through Outlook. The important thing to understand is that we have this very tight integration with Outlook, which is tremendously useful when it comes to managing activities, tasks, emails, etc. Although you can access CURO fully through Outlook, most people tend to prefer to leverage it or use it through a browser. And the reason being is we just remove the Outlook surround so that you have unfettered access to the CURO interface, which we believe is, I think, a bit more easy to use than perhaps looking at it through Outlook. However, where the integration with Outlook pays dividends is when it comes to interacting with Outlook the way, of course, it's designed to be used, emails, activities, tasks, etc. And so here, for example, we have an email that's been sent to Roland at Prospero Wealth. So I'm now going to adopt the persona of Roland, a financial advisor at Prospero Wealth. And here we can see Scott Tempest has been referred to us by one of our introducers, Paul Bramall at Cape and Warminster. And he wants some advice about his pension planning. Now, under normal circumstances, if you were using one of the traditional systems, then you would now need to go and create a record in your back office system in order to commence the client journey. For us, we start the journey here, and we do so by simply tracking the email. What this does is this builds a bridge between Outlook and CURO and allows us to convert the email into a new lead record. And within CURO, everything begins at lead level. So here we have a process called a dialogue, which allows us to collect basic information about the client and then convert that email to a lead record in CURO. So in a few seconds, we'll see a lead record appear, and here it is. And what we'll also notice is that all of the data that can be usefully used from that email is captured and entered into the appropriate place on the lead form. Okay, so stand by 1 second. I do apologize. I've just updated my system, so now I just need to go back and put it into the CURO lead. It's just launched the Click Dimensions lead, and here we are. So it's now pushed the appropriate information onto the lead record. Now you'll also notice that the email has been filed away, center page against the client, and that's where all of the activities appear, so you can build a comprehensive audit of everything that's ever happened. If I now want to respond to the client via email, I could do so in one of two ways. I could either email directly from within CURO, and basically all I need do is set up my email template and type away and then send it. And what will then happen is that will be submitted through Exchange Server in the normal way. And of course, the email that's been sent will be filed away against the CURO record. If, however, as most people do, I want to send my email through Outlook, then I can do so. And I simply create the email in the normal way, put in the client address, S2, and now I simply click track before sending it. Now, this is a setting within CURO. You don't have to manually track anything. Most clients tend to prefer that because it gives them control as to what emails they want to record and what not. But as a setting within CURO, we can automatically track everything as required. So here now you can see the email has arrived, and in order to see it within the CURO lead record, all I have to do is refresh the screen, and what we will then see is that email appear against the client record center pane as before. Any questions about the way Outlook interacts with CURO?
No, thank you. No.
All fairly straightforward?
Yeah, that looks really good.
Thank you. You'll have to excuse my internet. It's a little bit slow today for some reason, but we'll see that there it is. It's now come back, and we can see that email has been filed away. Now, in exactly the same way as emails are synchronized, so too are appointments. So if I create an appointment in Outlook, I can then track it back to CURO. If I create an appointment in CURO, it will synchronize to Outlook. Same with tasks. If I create tasks in CURO, they will appear in Outlook. If I complete a task in Outlook, it will complete in CURO and vice versa. And finally, of course, I have all of my contacts. As the owner of the record, I will see my contacts in Outlook, all nicely tracked and synchronized. And that means you've got all of your contacts with you wherever you are via Outlook. Okay, so the way it works is a really elegant way of capturing all records back to that single truth via Outlook. We're certainly not removing the use of Outlook. Quite the opposite. What we're doing is we're augmenting the use of Outlook so that very rapidly and efficiently you can capture information back to that client record. So what I'm going to do now is just delete that record, and now we'll jump into CURO via a browser. Okay, so I'll leave Outlook running in the background and I'll simply minimize it because we're going to be using Outlook for email tracking, etc. in a few minutes. So this is CURO through a browser. And the first thing that you will see is the bulk of the real estate is given over to information. And that's important because CURO is designed to be accessible from any device. And the navigation itself is hidden beneath this drop-down menu. And it's here now. You can see the various elements of CURO. I think it's also worth mentioning that I've got everything switched on. So all of the entities, all of the functionality, which is controlled by security roles within the settings area, I've got switched on. So it is possible to limit access right down to field level, actually, via the security role settings, which can be found under the settings area and here. So we have a very, very comprehensive and deep security model, which will, as they allow administrators to control access of each and every user down to field level. The system itself is broken down into these various domains: workplace, back office, remuneration, marketing, and compliance, and we'll look at those in a few seconds. Before we do that, then what will be useful is just to also look at some of the quick tools that we have at our disposal. The first one being a quick search. This is really handy because it allows us to very rapidly from the home page query the database and find records, in this instance, that contain the word Tempest. Now you'll see immediately it's found accounts, contacts, activities, and plans. And this shows architecturally how proper client relationship management, or CRM, works. You see, CRM is based on the principle of leads, which we saw earlier. Once a lead is qualified, it's converted to accounts and related contacts. And you can see here that we have 2 accounts illustrated in this query, although CURO caters for 4 accounts. And those accounts are households, trusts, corporates, and pension schemes. Most back office systems, or in fact all back office systems, are contact centric. They don't have the concept of an account, which means that once you have more than 2 related contacts, actually getting aggregated reporting across a household becomes very difficult and time consuming, if not impossible. Whereas of course with CURO we have this record called an account, and this allows us to aggregate information at the top level across multiple associated contacts. So it very much more reflects real life. Okay, and so the quick search allows me to very rapidly find records, and then if I want to navigate to the appropriate record, I simply click on the icon. It will then take me to, in this case, the Scott Tempest household. So navigating around, finding records, as you'll see as we go through this presentation, is very easy and very rapid. And here we have the household record. The next in line is this previously visited records tab, which shows us all of the records that we have looked at in the near future, or the recent past. And this then allows us to navigate back and forth easily. Now we do have this nice facility which then allows us to pin the record above the line, which means as I navigate around the software, okay, and come back to this recently visited records, it will stay there until such time as I unpin it. And then, as I say, it simply allows me to jump from one place to the other really easily. Again, so navigating around the software becomes a breeze. We don't have to back out of a record to then re-enter the system to go to find another record. It's very easy to jump from one record to the next. If I am working on a Tempest household, for example, doing a bit of work, and then the phone rings and we have a new prospective client or a new activity that needs to be set up, again, I don't need to back out of the software and go anywhere else. I simply need to go to this quick create function, which in this case allows me to set up, for example, a new inquiry, a new lead. By clicking on the appropriate function, it gives me a quick create form, which then allows me to capture information very rapidly. Once completed and saved, that creates the lead record for me to go back and visit at any time, and then it drops me back where I jumped off at the beginning of that process. So again, navigating around is easy. And finally, we have this advanced find tool. This basically allows us to find any record or group of records across the entire system. So it opens up the entire database and all of the fields associated with the database to find any number of groups of records. And this is an incredibly powerful tool, as it gives me unfettered access to my system and allows me to create multiple lists of records that I can then work with. More of that later. Any questions so far?
Nope.
Thank you. Okay, so when we go to main navigation, then it's worthwhile noting that sorry, could you put it on mute, please? We've got a lot of background noise, chaps. Thank you. So here we have Workplace, as I've mentioned before. A workplace starts with dashboards, although you can configure the system to land on any of the elements that you want. That's a setting. Within Workplace, basically, this is everything to do with the client and reporting. So it starts with dashboards, reports, etc. Dashboards are a good place to start. There are essentially 4 reporting vehicles available to our clients, dashboards being the first. Dashboards are a really effective way of surfacing information that is actionable. And CURO comes with a number of out-of-the-box dashboards, as you can see. But of course, you also have the ability to create your own. Dashboards, as I say, are tremendously powerful insofar as they allow you to surface relevant information that you can then act on. So if, for example, we look at this RMAR oversight dashboard, as the person responsible for RMAR, I can immediately see that if I were to run an RMA report, it would be wrong. And the reason I say that is because these 3 panels at the bottom show me that I have contacts, for example, with key data that's missing, recommendations with key data that's missing, and income profiles or income records with key data that's missing. So I know that if I run my RMAR, it will be wrong. So what do I do about it? So the thing about dashboards is, having identified graphically that you may have challenges, I can then pop open the dashboard, and that now reveals the underlying data married to the chart. So we see this grid, this view of data on the left-hand side, and we see the chart on the right. Now, we can therefore see that of these contacts, we've got, let me just have a look, we'll move the ring central, 429 records where 1 or more data items are missing. The query that we use in order to find missing fields is a simple OR query, which not all systems support. So this query simply says, looking at contacts, find me all records where this field, or this field, or this field, or this field, or this field is missing. And as you can see, based on that simple query, we found 429 records that are missing 1 or more data items. As it happens, it also highlights the fact that Roland, in this instance, is primarily responsible for not completing his records. So some 347 of the total are Roland's records. So clearly that identifies as it might be a training issue with Roland. But having identified where key data is missing, then how do we repair it? Again, there are real challenges with a number of back office systems where they would actually force you to go in and update those records individually, which might take quite a while if we're looking at the 429 records that we've got. With us, we have a number of controls at our disposal. The first is an ability to bulk edit. That allows us to add data into a field that's common and bulk edit all of the records in one go. An alternative way is actually to extract information to Excel, which is an incredibly powerful function, because what this allows me to do is take data out of CURO into Excel, which we're all familiar with. What we can then do is update the data in Excel, okay, because everything is very much more accessible to us and people are familiar with that. Having updated the data in Excel, we can save the Excel spreadsheet and then we can import the data back into CURO. So this ability to not only identify where there are challenges with the data, but then to do something about it by extracting data into Excel, updating it, and then importing it is incredibly powerful. And so not only can we identify where we've got challenges, but we can also then interact with that and deal with it. Any questions about dashboards?
No, very useful. Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure. So that's the first type of reporting, this ability to see stuff and act on it. The second type of reporting that we use within CURO is Excel templates. Now, Excel templates, again, are end-user configurable and allows you to reference data contained in a view. So here, for example, we can see all of the active recommendations across the business, of which there are some 264 in train. Now we can not only look at these records and chart them, which is the foundation of, for example, a dashboard, as we've seen already. What we can then do is we can expose this data to an Excel template. Excel templates can be created outside of CURO, so it allows you to create your documents and then simply upload them into the system. So here, for example, if I want to analyze the source of the business that is the foundation of these recommendations, then simply select the appropriate Excel template that's been created. And this is just standard Excel functionality. It's incredibly powerful. And then here, for example, you can see all of the information that we have in that view is extracted into a tab in Excel, and then we can build Power Pivot reports to basically view that data graphically. But also we then have the ability to filter down. So if I, for example, want to look at all of these records by advisor, then I can filter down to a particular advisor. I can look at different statuses, lead sources, etc. So the idea behind this is that we can very easily interact with that data in reports that we have created that are fit for what we're trying to achieve with our business. So the first two reporting types I've mentioned already, Excel templates and also dashboards, are end user configurable. So they are within the control of the user. The third type of reporting is what we call custom reports or SQL Server reporting services. These are reports that require a technical understanding of the system and an ability to create appropriate reports. So it's a development job. The way we operate is we're very happy to work with our clients to design SSRS reports to reflect precisely the information they want and present it the way they want. Once the custom report is created, then it can be made subject to a schedule, which means from that moment onwards, the appropriate people within the business could receive their report automatically by the system that simply produces it and sends it out based on the schedule. We don't have a tremendous number of reports in the system simply because actually most people use dashboards and Excel templates to get the information they need. However, one obvious report is the RMAR, and we have both accrual basis and cash basis reporting for RMAR. The RMAR, in order to run a report, is a simple matter of selecting the component or the report you want, putting in the appropriate date range that you want to search on, and then having put in the appropriate date range, simply create the report. The system will then build the report based on the query that's contained within it, and then render the outputs in the appropriate design. In this instance, we've simply built the RMAR to reflect the input fields that you currently deal with when you run your RMAR, and here we are. Now, not only do we summarize information using obviously the information presented here, but what we also have is an ability to drill in to the details. So for example, if I wanted to see the makeup of that number, then you can see the pointer was changed to a finger, which means I can then select that number, and it will simply then drill down to the underlying records that make up that value. So I then will see a list of every single record that makes up that value. Now, if I'm not sure about something, it means I can also, via this hypertext link, jump off to the actual record within CURO. So now, from the report, I've been able to look at all of the underlying values that make up that report, and then it allows me to jump off to any particular record that I might have issue with and then act on it. Everywhere you see a hypertext link allows me to navigate to that particular record across the system. So navigating around CURO is incredibly fluid. So that's the third type of reporting, and that, of course, is developer-led. The final type of reporting is CURO BI. CURO Business Intelligence was launched in the first quarter of this year and is now being rolled out to a number of our clients. The way we operate it is we have created a suite of 5 reporting templates, as you can see, which allow you to visualize your data as never before. The system itself refreshes these panels every 24 hours and allows you to delve in and really begin to see your business as you've never seen it before. And so the theme is consistent across all the reports, so it allows you to not only visualize your information when it renders, come on, here we go. Here we go. So it allows us to visualize information. So for example, the makeup of all income by provider, by product, by advisor, and by fee type. We can look at different values across each period. We can, for example, look at calendar years, fiscal years, we can look at dashboard views, or we can get into detailed analysis of that data. So basically, effectively allowing us to drill down to client records and the underlying records that make up the values that have been seen in those charts. And for example, I can also drill down to a data view as well, which then allows me an option to jump from BI to the underlying CURO record. So the system itself gives me incredible capability to visualize my business across multiple different zones that we've built reports for. Importantly, for those firms that have business intelligence skills in-house, they can also build their own reports, or we can work together to construct specific BI reports as required. Any questions about the reporting available through CURO?
No.
No? Thank you. Alrighty, so going back to CURO then, what we've already looked at very briefly is the navigation. Navigation, as I say, starts with Workplace. Workplace, we've got dashboards, we've got reports that we've already rehearsed. It supports queues. Queues are team inboxes, so it basically allows us to route activities that teams of people can work on. And a number of corporates that we know have used this to great effect to define their workflow, where teams of individuals will work on different records at different stages in the process. We also have overview of all activities. So these are the activities that are being managed through Outlook and also CURO. And because everything is driven by records, it gives us an enormous capability around identifying what needs to be done, by whom and by when. So here, for example, if I wanted to view all activities that were overdue, okay, then I could do so. I could then visualize that by operator or user. So here we go. These are overdue activities, of which there are 137, and I can now see that Roland, again, is the culprit. He's got 87 overdue activities. Now, I just happen to know that Rob Paget also, for example, is on holiday, so I can see he's got 9 overdue activities, and while he's away, I can simply select those, and I can reassign them to somebody else or move them to a different queue. So this ability to interact with activities or any record within the system is profound. We've already talked about the makeup of CRM leads, which are then qualified to accounts and contacts. So here, for example, I can simply drill in and I can look at all of my accounts, all records that I have within the system. And you can see here, I've got my various system views, which allow me to view households, corporates, trust accounts, plus any of my own views that I might have created using the advanced find tool. It's now that perhaps I could introduce just the notion of automation, because I think one of the big challenges that clients have is, for example, being able to communicate the right information to the right client at the right time. And so what I'd like to do is just illustrate or ask a question of you at the moment. If I were to ask you, you've got some 324 households that you want to communicate a highly personalized newsletter to, how long would it take you to do that with your current system? The ability to basically communicate not only just generic news, but also perhaps provide a report which gives them updated valuations and all their assets, their liabilities, their net worth. How long would it take you to do that, somebody?
I don't actually think we could do it, to be honest, because we'd have to prepare the report individually for each client and then attach it to an individual email.
And then presumably after that, you'd then have to bind that report back to the client record for audit purposes.
We'd have to put it into our document management system.
Okay, well, thank you for that. So it might be a bit of a job, is what you're saying.
I think we probably wouldn't try and do it, to be honest.
Fair enough.
I think we couldn't do.
Okay, well, for me, this is how hard it can be. I can simply select all of my records. I can then go to a workflow. Now, we'll look at this in a few seconds, and everything I'm showing you here I built, so it's once you know what you're looking at, the potential to do stuff is incredibly profound. So here, for example, I'm going to look at a simple workflow which says create and send household account newsletter. So here we go, create and send household account newsletter. For me to prepare and send those newsletters, all I need to do is click add and then click OK. Now, I'm not going to do it to every single one of those because that might take a few minutes, but what I will do is search on the household of Tempest. And now I will run that workflow against that record. So run workflow. Okay, create and send household account newsletter. Add, okay. And in fact, while I'm at it, I might as well create and send a review fact find. So go back to run workflow. Create and send household account review fact find. Add, okay. And that's it. So that's all I have to do. Now, what we'll do is while we're waiting for that to run, and we'll see the emails arrive shortly, what I'd like to do is show you how I did it. So this is now where I'm going to introduce the concept of automation, which we use, and you'll see in action when we get into the petrol and the engine phase of this demo. Under settings, we have this area called processes. Obviously, only the people with appropriate permissions will have access to this. And here we can see the workflow create and send household account newsletter. When I open this up, then you'll begin to see just how powerful this solution is. This is a simple 3-line workflow. It's a workflow that is run on demand, although it could be run as an unattended workflow based on a system trigger. For example, if a record is created or a field is changed, and we'll see that operationally as we go through. When I click that button, what this system did was create an email from an email template, which is referenced here, create the newsletter from the newsletter template, put the two together, sent it, filed it, and then ended the workflow. The workflow for the create and send review fact find is actually the identical workflow to the one we've just referenced. It basically creates an email from a template, creates the fact find from the template, puts the two together, sends it, ends it. All right. All that we're doing here is referencing a different template. Incredibly simple workflow, but a profound impact on an ability to perform a role as we've identified. If we now look at the template itself, this is where I'm going to be introducing Experido. I talked about Experido very briefly in the introduction. Experido is an incredibly powerful tool that allows you to create highly personalized template documents referencing any or all data contained within CURO. So here, if we search on news, then we can see we've got the newsletter and we have the accompanying newsletter email. What I've also just noticed is the emails are now beginning to arrive. Here's the client review. I'll pop that, minimize that in a few seconds, and here's the newsletter. So we'll just minimize those two emails, and we'll come back to these in a few seconds. Okay, so the workflows have fired. If I now select the newsletter template itself, I can now move into designer mode, which will show me the template in its raw format. Okay, so Microsoft Word will now open up, and what we will then see is the template itself, and then we'll also see the associated data set, and you can begin to get a sense of just how powerful this tool set is. Okay, so up comes the Word template. Here it is. And if we pause a few seconds, then we'll now see the data set being loaded as well. Okay, here we go. So what we've now got is the template on the left and the data set on the right. If we look at the data set firstly, you'll see that this report is run at the account level. It's possible to run Experio templates from any level within the system. These green fields are the merge fields that we've taken from the account record itself. Okay. What you'll see is that we also have the ability to drill into a related record. So here, for example, we've got the advisor surfaced, and it allows us to look through the advisor record down to the system user database. So the system architecturally allows us to access any level of data within the system that is related. So here, for example, we can see all assets, we can see all plans, we can see all liabilities. So we've got unfettered access to that data. In order to add a data item, all we need to do is put the cursor on the template where we want it, select the appropriate field and double click. It will then load the data item onto the template. To remove it, we simply delete it. So this ability to create templates is incredibly powerful. Now you'll also notice we've got these blue fields. These fields are what we call pseudo fields. These fields are created within the template itself. So here, for example, you can see we have a field called total net worth. When we look or expand that field and edit it, we can see that we can deploy Excel-style calculations to reference data from within CURO and then calculate an output value, in this case, the total net worth of the client, within the template itself. So this ability to not only take standard data or flat data from the system, but to then develop our own output values is incredibly profound. And within Experio, we've built income tax calculators, we've built inheritance tax calculators, simply by referencing data that's contained in CURO and then leveraging pseudo fields to add massive value to the output. And this has been used to great effect with our clients as well. So here, for example, we now have the generic news element of the newsletter. And then we move next into tables showing the, for example, life cover that the firm has, their individual has, their critical illness, and their income protection as well. As we roll over these tables, you'll notice that they're contained within a grey envelope. And this is what we call a condition. And this is where the system allows us to introduce intelligence into a template. So, for example, if in this instance we don't have any income protection plans, what we don't want to see in the finished article is an empty table. What we want to see is no table at all. And in fact, maybe a paragraph which says, according to our records, you have no income protection plans in force, so therefore maybe we should discuss this. Okay, so the ability to build intelligence into templates as well, incredibly powerful. So this is the newsletter in its raw format. So if we now put that away and go and have a look at the emails that have come in, I'll just go back to CURO. Okay, then as we were talking, the emails came, and here we can see the newsletter firstly. So, dear Scott and Jean, pleasure in attaching your most up-to-date news bulletin, and here it is. So we can now open that up. And we can see it's just been driven out today, the 20th of August, dear Scott and Jean. These values recalculate every time we run this report based on the daily price feed that CURO receives from Financial Express. So these are all of the output values calculated in those pseudo fields that we just looked at. Here is the generic news content. And then here you can see the protection, so life cover, critical illness, and in fact, they do not have any income protection, so it's hidden the table and shown the paragraph as discussed. There's retirement savings, investments, and assets and liabilities and total net worth calculated. So there's newsletter. If we now look at the fact find, then again, it's all branded in Prospero Wealth colors. So here's the email and here's the review fact find. And again, this just goes to underline the fact that all data is available to me to prepare any document I want, presenting the information I want in the brand that I want. Any questions about what you've seen so far?
No.
Thank you. So you can see this incredibly powerful and very, very useful to be able to create highly personalized documents that can then be reached to the client. Now, if I now go back to the Tempest household, then you'll see what we have is then those two documents have been filed away, center pane against the client record as there. All right. So in terms of the navigation, again, what we have within the client record or the account in this instance is we also have a drop-down menu. Now you can see everything is switched on, as I mentioned earlier. So a lot of these entities may or may not be relevant to the particular user, and if they're not, then security roles will simply remove them. But this is the full KYC architecture of the system. So we can see all contacts related to the record, dependents, income, expenditure, wills, etc., plus reviews, planning objectives, requirements, and recommendations. Now, CURO is very review-centric. Most back-office systems are transactional-centric, i.e. it's all about recording the sale of plans, where here it's all about managing advice. More of that as we go through the presentation. Assets and liabilities, then compliance, etc. Okay, and so everything to do with the client, everything to do with the client records are found in Workplace. You'll also see that we have access to professional firms and provider databases. Now, the professional firms are firms of introducers, legal professions, or anything. So basically, these are all of a group of really important connections to the firm. If I wanted to look at active introducers, then I could filter that down to my active introducers. I can then drill into the relevant firm that I have dealings with. And as before, I've then got everything I need about that firm, including all of the partners, all of the branches, and indeed all individuals or accounts that they've introduced to us. So the click of a button, I can see everybody that's been introduced by any particular firm. In exactly the same way, we maintain a database of product providers. So we, within CURO, have some 2,291 product providers that we maintain centrally. And again, the idea behind this is that you can then filter that down to your favorites and basically create a default list of your favorite providers. When we drill into that, we can then see all of the information about the various providers that we have dealings with, including all of the key contacts, and also an ability to create all of our e-services. So it's fully supporting of electronic remuneration and also evaluation services from those providers that support it. For those providers that don't have a formal e-service, then what we also have is an ability to upload information directly from within the client record, so you can manually update or upload files for valuation and remuneration purposes. As before, you have full access to all plans you have with, for example, any of these providers simply through the drop-down menu. So I can see all plans, all contributions, all income, everything from within this space. That's not, you wouldn't necessarily go here to find these records, but the point is it shows how the whole thing is fully connected. Okay. In exactly the same way as we maintain a comprehensive database of product providers, we also maintain a comprehensive database of products. And that's important simply because the idea here is we ensure consistency of data capture. So rather than defining product providers by the end user, we're looking up lists in exactly the same way we're looking up lists from products as well. And that ensures a consistent approach when it comes to data capture so that your reporting is meaningful. You get the relevant information out. Now, as we move to back office, what we now have is access to all of the elements that we've seen against the client, the KYC elements, but in one place. So for example, if I want to see all reviews that are active across the entire business, then here they all are. It's basically a list of all reviews that are currently being done across the business, and here we can chart them by advisor and also review date. So this gives me all access to every review in exactly the same way. I can see all plans, I can see all recommendations, I can see everything that's going on across the business specific to any new business. Remuneration, I can see all income expectation, I can see all incomes received, and I can see all statements and also go through splits and settlements. So this is the whole remuneration reconciliation area. Marketing, we have comprehensive marketing capability within core CURO, but for those individuals that want to extend the marketing capability, we can do so dramatically with Click Dimensions, and this is Click Dimensions. So full automated event management through your web visitors, through the ability to capture data from the websites via posted forms, which we'll see, surveys, the ability to do any email and capture everything back to the client record, and also social posts. So a massively comprehensive marketing capability for those firms that want it. And then we have the compliance area where the system can be configured to select cases based on rules. So for compliance purposes, any case that fits a certain criteria can automatically be selected for reviews. You can manage all client satisfaction and client verification, all of your registers, plus competency and GDPR data protection functions too. Okay, so that's a quick fly past of CURO. Any questions so far?
No.
No? All righty.
Sorry, one question, Roland. The reports you showed us there, are they standard in CURO?
So that's a very good question, and thank you for that. Everything I'm showing you at the moment are reports that I've created for demonstration purposes. However, one of the projects that the product team are currently involved with is creating what we call our Head Start processes and documents. And Head Start is a suite of automation processes that allow you to leverage some of the automation capability that is native within CURO or native within Microsoft Dynamics. And also we're creating a suite of documents, again, a starter pack almost, to show you or demonstrate the art of the possible from which you can then evolve your own template documents. Everything that I'm showing you here is stuff that I've built, but actually there's a lot more that we're currently doing in the background to provide you with documents that you can use out of the box.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so if we now, for example, look at some of the things that we were talking about. So for example, the power or the benefit of an account as a point of aggregation for everything to do with related clients, it becomes immediately obvious. So for example, I wanted to prepare a valuation report for a household, then I could do so easily. We've already seen that we've got the main form of the client records, the ability to scroll from tab to tab, where a key client information is surfaced. But all of this information, especially the income expenditure, household details, etc., are all calculated from the related records that we reviewed earlier. So income expenditure, this is, if you like, the full KYC associated documents or records. If, for example, I wanted to do an aggregated valuation across all of my associated contacts, then I could do so again using Experido. So under the ellipsis menu here, you can see I've got access to the Experido document management console. So when I click on that and open that up, then you'll see that I have an array of documents in my demo system that I can then call on. So for example, a number of firms that we work with have developed review packs to speed up the process of review preparation. We've come across scenarios where firms originally, before engaging with us, were spending numerous hours in the construction of their review pack. So for example, the private office, one of our larger businesses, often used to spend 2, 3, 4 hours in the preparation of a review pack for review. Same with Brooks Macdonald, their annual review service was a 56-page document which literally took them 6 hours to compile. What we were then able to do is take that information or take those documents, create Experido templates, which means those reports are now on demand. So for example, here, the TPO branded valuation is a simple matter of clicking on the template itself. That will then allow me to very rapidly get to, if you like, a review pack, in this case, evaluation. So it's just capturing the information. And in a few seconds, I'll be able to, there we go. It's now generated the document. Now we've output this document in Word, and we can see we can get to a very comprehensive report very rapidly leveraging this tool set. So here it is. So this is the actual report that TPO defined for their business. It's literally, rather than taking 3 or 4 hours to compile, it's taken, as you've seen, a matter of seconds. And here we have all of the information presented in precisely the way they want it. Now, getting templates that are optimized around a particular service that you provide for your clients, producing them literally within a matter of seconds, and then maybe spending 10-15 minutes topping and tailing them in preparation for review, has just transformed the speed with which firms are able to satisfy their client requirements and the client reviews. And that's just an example of one report within the system. In exactly the same way, for example, if I wanted to do a valuation report, for example, against a particular plan, here I can simply go down to the plans that are associated with the Tempest household. I can then see all of the plans associated with the household, and we can see both Jean and Scott have a number of plans. If I wanted to find the AJ Bill pension scheme, there it is, a self-invested pension. I could either run down the list and look at it, or I could simply search for it using this quick query tool set. There it is. I can then open up this AJ Bell SIP, and now I'm going to demonstrate an integration with, or the integration with Financial Express, and to show you how quickly I can do an analysis, for example, against a particular SIP. This analysis can be done at plan level, it can be done at contact level, and also at account level. So whatever level you want to run the integration, you can do so. So here, for example, we can see FE Analytics. Select that, that will then open up the FE Analytics interface. I've not run it today, so I need to log in firstly. So here we go. Roland at timeadvice.co.uk. Here we are. And once logged in, then all of the data contained against that SIP will be uploaded to FE. And within a matter of seconds, I have my analysis done. Here it comes. And then once completed, there it is. Once completed, I can run my report, referencing the actual underlying funds that are contained within that SIP. So you can see it's incredibly easy to get to a very detailed and comprehensive analytics report simply by leveraging that integration. Now, these reports are great, but they're all branded as FE. So actually, what a lot of firms like to do is create their own branded reports, but referencing the same information. And again, we've created a number of reports that illustrate how that can be achieved. So if I now go back to the Experido Management Console against this plan, so we're running this report at plan level. So here is a valuation. I want to look at that plan and the fund breakdown, simply capture the report, and then go through the various steps. Here we go, and generate the report. And literally within sort of 10-15 seconds, we have a branded report presenting precisely the information that the client wants in their brand, in their voice. Here we go. And you can see all of the information that's available against the funds, for example, are here. These values recalculate every time we run this report because of the daily price feed. And then we can also leverage charting in Microsoft Word to present information in a very attractive chart format. So we have the asset allocation available to us. We have geographical spread, sector, and top 10 holdings. Okay. Any questions about what you've seen so far? Because what I'm sort of mindful to do now is put a bit of petrol in the engine and actually bring the whole thing together.
No, it's been great so far.
Yeah. Okay, so what I'd like to do is to say, I'm really just trying to illustrate at the moment navigation and how you can get to stuff, and also how quickly it is to navigate around the software. But what I think sort of makes a difference, if we can put this into practice now and actually show you what sort of things can be achieved when you think through a process. And what I'm about to show you is entirely my interpretation of what an onboarding process might look like. And so, Richard, if you wouldn't mind, would you act as my my assistant in this presentation? Because what I'd like to do is actually use you as an example client going through this process. Would that be all right?
Of course.
Thank you. So I've just run a marketing campaign. You've received the email, you've clicked on the link, and now you are at the Prospero Wealth website. You're now reading through the wonderful things that Prospero Wealth can do for you. And after the cup of coffee, you feel absolutely compelled that you need to make contact. So click on the contact button. Now, obviously you have a website at the moment, and when somebody completes the web form, because you have a web form, I've seen it, when they put the information into the web form, what happens?
That comes through as an email.
It comes through, and where does it go? I mean, how do you manage or monitor those emails?
Currently it comes through to myself and also my assistant who has access to it.
Fantastic. But I think you'll agree it's quite a frail thing. You might not be available, your assistant might be on holiday, and that lead might be lost. So what we have, and I guess the starting point from our journey, is the ability to integrate your web forms on your website directly with CURO. So Richard, let me just take some basic information. So it's Mr. Richard Stanton. Now, before I do this, Richard, let's have a look. Let me just check something. I just wanted to see whether you're actually in the system already, otherwise it won't work. So let me just have a look. Okay, Richard Stanton, yes, you are. So what I'll do is I will make up your name, and so we'll use a slightly different name, which is fine. Okay, let's go back there. So it is Richard Stantoni, and your email is ricardo.stantoni@home.com. All right, so there's your email, and that's your email address. A telephone number, we'll just make one up because we don't really need it. That's fine. And then Richard, select from this list anything you like. What area of interest do you have?
Retirement accumulation.
Retirement accumulation, thank you for that. So let's just select retirement accumulation. So help, I need to plan for my retirement. And oh, by the way, I have just won a large amount of cash on the lottery and need advice. Okay, so that I think you'll agree would be quite a nice referral to receive. So we'll commit this to submit. So the website has now completed its job. The website's really designed to do two things: educate and generate leads. And so this is obviously what this has just done. It's educated you about the wonders of financial planning. You've made an inquiry, and that has generated the lead. So we can now minimize the website, and here we are now back at the sales and marketing dashboards, the lead management dashboard at Prospero Wealth. And you can see that the last lead to come in was from a Jess Haley, and we've had 9 leads in August so far. If I refresh this panel, then you can see we've now received 10 leads so far, the last one being from Richard Stantoni. So if this is a queue, this is a website leads queue, if I now click on that task, then I can see details about the inquiry, okay, all created automatically via workflow, and then I can click onto the lead proper, and that will now navigate me to your lead record in CURO. So what has happened during this process is when we completed the submit button, then what happened is a message was sent via what we call an API, an application program interface. That message was sent to CURO. That then created a new lead record, as we've seen with Richard Stantoni. And what that lead did is file away all of the relevant information from the web form that it could. It then fired a workflow. The workflow created a lead task, so a task which was then routed to the new lead queue. So all of that happened via workflow. Now, this task is about pre-qualification, and so what now happens is a member of Prospero Wealth picks up the phone and basically wants to qualify you to know how best to route your inquiry. So now we're in a role play. I'm picking up the phone, and the first thing that I need to do, Richard, is just to confirm that you're happy for me to hold data on our systems for GDPR purposes. So I've made the request today, and are you happy for us to hold information?
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you very much. So you've granted permission so we can record this information for GDPR purposes. And yes, you do want information and you do want us to update you. So this is what we call a process flow. Process flows do update data on the form, but it does so from one central place. So it allows us to capture data in a very structured way. And I mentioned earlier about our Head Start processes. A number of Head Start processes are indeed process flows. So it allows us to capture information, relevant information, in a highly structured and organized way. So clicking next allows me to go to the next stage of the process. And it basically allows me to confirm key information. Date of birth, Richard, is the 12th of August 1961. Hey, does that sound about right?
You just impressed me, but
Yeah, don't worry. I can put in your home telephone number, mobile, and any other information as required. Next, into household details. So I'm going to make up for depressing you by putting down your household information. So firstly, actually, your postcode, your home postcode, what would that be, Rich?
India Golf 6.
India Golf 6.
To Sierra Hotel.
Sierra Hotel, thank you for that. So we can then look up. And here we have our address lookup function. And what number is it?
Number 3.
Number 3, thank you. So that's important because it then populates the address in the right way, in a consistent way. So you can be comfortable that the address information is being captured appropriately. Household income is £125,000. Expenditure is £76,000. And you have a property value of £1.5 million. Other assets, you've got £5 million sitting in a current account, and you've got a £35,000 mortgage. So you can see this is definitely somebody we want to be talking to. A very interesting client indeed. Now, we'll just go through the final bits of the process flow, and we can see that now I'm simply recording who the person was who made the initial contact, when the initial contact happened, okay, which was today at 11:30 or 11 o'clock. The advisor, I'm now going to appoint an advisor based on this information. So I'm going to appoint Roland as an advisor, okay? And you'll see that that simply populates that field. And I'm going to save that record. What will happen in a few seconds is a workflow will fire because I've changed a field and triggered a workflow. But before we look at that, you'll also notice that as we were talking, an email arrived. And Richard, you won't get this because, of course, your email address is wrong. But if I show it to you, then you'll see that this email has come through to you. And here it says, Richard, thank you very much for your inquiry. Please acknowledge blah, blah, blah. And it sent a personalized brochure to Richard. So this is a second workflow that's fired, which has basically identified the requirements of the client and has created a personalized brochure using Experdo, and it has routed that directly to Richard. Okay, let's just grab that as well. That's the email to me. I'll just put that there for a few seconds. And so this is another example as to where Experdo can be used to produce highly personalized documentation, but generated automatically via workflow. And you can see this brochure is sensitive to the particular area of interest for Richard, because of course he said that he wanted to look at retirement accumulation. So the brochure has been personalized around Richard's requirements. And that's simply using conditionality, as we discussed earlier. All right. Now, while we were talking, another email arrived, and the email was to me. And basically, it's notified me of the existence of the new lead and that I should make contact with you. All right. And so the workflows are simply working through a process of, this has been designed by the company as to what actions need to be taken and at what stages in the process they need to be taken at. So we're building efficiency into this process. And also, it's reliable. It will happen every time we go through this process. And you can see also that everything is filed away centrally. Okay. Now, Roland now picks up the phone. He reviews the data captured so far, and yes, absolutely, looks at the potential opportunity that this client presents and definitely wants to do business with the client. And so what he is suggesting that the first thing we should do, Richard's requirement is immediate. The first thing we should do is, rather than just focus on retirement accumulation, we should do a full lifetime cash flow forecast to get a better understanding of your broader goals. We've agreed a fee of £5,000 for that, which you're delighted with. And what we've now done is we've moved you from a warm lead to a hot lead, Richard. And we've agreed that what we should do is book a meeting. So I've looked at my diary, and I'm available, as are you, on the 28th of August, and you're going to come to my office at 12:30. All right, and now I can finish the process flow. So what we've done, the lead has come in, it's fired workflows to firstly create a task, which I've actioned. It sent you a personalized brochure. I've done some pre-qualification work. I've then routed the lead to the advisor. Workflow has fired and created and sent a letter to, or an email to Roland to pick up and pursue, which he's now done. We've booked a meeting, and you'll see the process flow is completed. So the underlying information has been filed away so that we get full access to the real estate. That is the form which contains all the information. I can now refresh this screen, and what we should hopefully see is the appointment has now been booked. That will be synchronizing with Outlook, and also a pre-meeting pack will be on its way to you, Richard. So there's the meeting, and we'll see a pre-meeting pack appear shortly too. So I've now qualified the inquiry, the lead. Absolutely, you're the sort of client that we should be seeing. And so what I now need to do is move you forward in the process to create an account and contact. So in order to do that, we simply go through the qualify process. And here we now see another form of process. We've looked at workflows, we've looked at process flows. This is a dialogue. So what dialogues do is they allow you to, again, walk through steps in a process and interact with CURO. So this is convert the lead, disqualify, convert. Well, I'm going to convert it. Next, do I wish to create a requirement? No. Next. And now it allows me to capture other essential information before finishing. And this will now close out the lead, create a new account, and associate a contact record with that new account. Okay. Is that all clear? Does any questions about what you've seen so far?
No, I think that's seems very, very slick. So, and again, are these part of the Head Start process, or would we create these ourselves?
No, the conversion, the process flows, and the dialogues are all part of Core CURO, the Head Start process. So now you can see the account and the contact records have been created. So next and finish. So this has now closed out the lead record. So this has gone read only. So when I now use the quick search on Stantoni, okay, then what this will do is find the new account and the new contact record. The lead record has been made basically non-active, so it's not coming up. But then we can see all of the tasks and activities carried through as well. So when I click on the Stantoni household, then you'll see everything that has been done has been moved across. And what we should hopefully see as well, there it is, Richard confirming your initial meeting with Roland. So that's the email that's gone to you. I'll just open that up. And it'll then allow us to see not only the email, confirming everything, but also you'll see that the system has sent you a pre-meeting document too. Here we go. Dear Mr. Stoney, great to speak to you, blah, 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 confirming our meeting on. In the meantime, here's our pre-meeting pack. Okay, so, and you can see it's now sensitive to the fact the meeting date, the advisor, it's giving you information about Prospero Wealth, reaffirming our process, how to find us, about your advisor. So conditionally, it's put in details of your advisor, and allow you to now start capturing income, expenditure, assets, liabilities, and also sending you an ability to look at existing plans and create your letters of authority, which have all been created for you. So this is just, and again, one example of how we can start building a process around the client engagement. With our recent integration with CashCalc, what firms are beginning to do now is rather than send pre-meeting packs, they're sending links to a secure web page where that KYC process can be adopted online. So that's something which we're just about to launch once CashCalc have released the final code to us, which will be great. So here we are with the account. You can see, Richard, that we don't have a second contact. So the first thing we do is need to do is add Mrs. Stantoni. So in order to facilitate that, we simply click and look up. There are no existing records, so we'll create a new one. Okay, so here we have a quick create form. So this allows us to very rapidly capture basic information. So Jemima Stantoni. Okay, and current status prospect, address has been moved across, that's fine. So now we've created the second record, and there it is. And I think what we should do now, Richard, with your permission, is we should send you an engagement letter. Okay, so in order to facilitate that, what we will do is we will firstly go down to engagement and segmentation, and we can see that no agreement date has been sent, no agreement has been sent yet, so we'll simply put in the today's date and we'll save that record. Now, as you noticed, with unattended workflow, by changing a field, that could then trigger a workflow. And in fact, what this workflow is doing is basically creating a client agreement, which it will send to both you, Richard, and me. I'm Jemima in this role play, so that we can then sign up the agreement via DocuSign. Okay. What you'll also see here is we've got another process flow, which basically walks us through the engagement process. So engagement status is we've basically got pre-initial, fact-find date, we can start completing. And so the idea behind all of this is it allows us to build a process around client engagement in a very structured way. Okay. So the workflow has fired. Here we have the DocuSign email that's come through, and here we are. So I can now open up this as Jemima. I can see the client agreement. So it's to Stantoni, Richard and Jemima, generated today, all in the Prospero Wealth branding. I can then click down to start, go through to Jemima Stantoni, her address, sorry, her signature. I'm going to adopt a new one, so I'm going to get DocuSign to create my own agreement. And once that's completed, Richard, you'll have received your document as well. And then, of course, once we've both signed it, a signed agreement will be returned to both of us, with not only includes the agreement itself, but also a summary document which demonstrates or tells us when the document was generated, when it was delivered, when it was opened, when it was signed, and also importantly, what was the IP address of the computer that it was signed on. Adopt and sign, and there we are. Okay, so there we have our client agreement completed. Okay, and again, that will all be filed away against the client record. So what I think we should now do is do a bit of advice. And before I do that, I just want to go through some basic qualification information. So I'm going to do an AML check. Now, of course, it's going to fail because I've just made up the information, but we'll see. So in order to do a AML check against you, Richard, I simply click on your hypertext link, just save that record. And then that will take me from the account through to your contact record. Okay, so stand by 1 second, please, while it just saves the record, and here we go. So click onto Richard Stantoni. That takes us from the account through to contact. So hypertext links are a really good way of navigating through the system without having to back out and then re-enter the system. So now you can see using the breadcrumbs here that we are in the contacts database on the Richard Stantoni record. And again, navigating back to the household is a simple matter of clicking on that hypertext link back to the household. Okay, all of the information is captured and carried through. The AML check is here under client verification. So I'll click on that. And now I can begin the client verification process via Smart Search. So clicking on the Smart Search process, firstly allows me to validate the address of number 3, which is correct. Next, I can then add more information as required to further validate your identity, get your permission to proceed, continue. This will now gather up all of the information we've entered into this form, send it off to Smart Search. Smart Search will do the analysis, and once complete, we'll send a message back to CURO as it's just done. It is, as you can see, failed, but it has now pre-populated all of the AML record with data from CURO, from Smart Search, as well as returning the relevant documents. Now, the documents themselves can be accessed here. And as you can see, all of the information is branded Smart Search. However, I might want to prepare my own report presenting precisely the information I want in my brand, but still access that report as an appendix in my report. So here, if I put in, there we go, the Xperdo solution, I can now find all of the documents that I have at my disposal. This is the one I want. ML report, next, next, generate. And this will now create my report. So when I open it up, here we can see the client verification report for Richard Stantoni, prepared by me. Here's all the information. Obviously, it's failed as we rehearsed, but then you can see we've also merged in the Smart Search report too. All right, so again, by thinking through your process, you can very rapidly get to an output leveraging integrations, leveraging the processes and document automation. Here we are back at the Stantoni contact record. Now what I want to do is give you a piece of advice after I've obviously further validated your identity. But in order to do that, I now want to create a recommendation. And the first thing that I'm going to recommend is that you do some protection for the family. So in order to facilitate that, I'm going to create a new recommendation record using the quick create record. So capture information, I can say provide protection for the family. Alrighty, it is drafting advice. There we go. Solution type is product-based, advice given. Okay, apply for a new plan. You know what, I've gone for the wrong place. I do apologize. I should have gone for a requirement. Please excuse me. So let's do that again. Let's go to the requirement. Here we go. That's what I want to do. And so under the requirement, we have the quick fill form. Here we go. This is better. And so we can now put down the requirement, provide family with protection. Requirement type is personal protection. This now opens up more fields that I can add information to. It's an essential priority. We can now put down the fact that it's first life we want cover for. We want £1 million worth of life cover. Okay, and we want that over the next 15 years. I could do a multi-benefit quote if I wanted to, but for the sake of this demonstration, that will do for now. So I'm going to save this record. Okay, and this now creates the requirement identified. The whole concept of the financial planning process is that we have planning objectives which spawn requirements, which spawn recommendations. So we've created the requirement initially. Because it's personal protection, the system knows that we want a protection quote. And what it's done is it's loaded our integration with Solution Builder, which is iPipeline. Had we loaded an investment request, then it would have loaded O&M there as the relevant solution. So here I can see the basic information that has been captured on the requirement. I can augment this if I want to, but for the sake of this demonstration, I'm just going to go straight into providing a quote. So this now opens up the iPipeline process, but it starts with a web form to validate the information that we have is appropriate. So I'm now, as you can see, we've got missing information. So I'm going to go and edit details. This opens up the form for me to add to. So you're a non-smoker. Richard, you're 6 foot 2 inches tall. You are 13 stone 7 pounds. You are an employed company director. Okay, and your income we've already identified as 125. So that's a good starting point. So we'll now save this. This saves the data back to CURO, so we don't have to go through this process every time. It simply validates the essential information in order to get the quote from outset. And once that information has been saved, then it allows us to proceed through to Solution Builder. So now clicking to Solution Builder now takes all of the information that Solution Builder needs. The first thing it's going to do is an indicative quote. So it's going to run an algorithm based on the information to give me a sense of what that quote might be. Okay, and it's remarkably accurate actually, but based on obviously many millions of quotes that have been done over the years. And so the system thinks, it hasn't done an indicative quote, so that's interesting. But what it does allow me to do is add more information as required. So for example, I want to add a multi-benefit, I can do so. So what I'm now going to do is get a quote. So this basically will take all of that information and send it to market, where it will now get a quote based on requirements. Okay. So here you can see it's got a quote, £208 a month from 16, 51 have not quoted. So I'm going to flag this, and that's available to me, where I can act on. I can go through an application process, or I can save for later. When I save for later, then the Sync to CURO button fires up, so it allows me to take that information and synchronize all of the data behind the quote, plus all of the documents that have been created in support of that quote. All of that information will go back to CURO. It will create a recommendation record stored against the requirement from which the journey began. So that then allows me to move forward to the next stage, which is to create a suitability letter. So again, just thinking through the process allows us to connect all of these components in a way that just saves enormous amount of time and effort. So there we are. I'm now going to quit back to CURO. So when we go to the CURO record, okay, here's the requirement. You can see that the related recommendation has now appeared against the system. So when I open up the recommendation now, then all of the data, okay, all of the data is now stored against the recommendation itself. Okay, and what we also have are all of the documents, the quotes recorded against the recommendation too. So all of this information has come back directly from iPipeline to CURO. Just imagine how much time that saved in terms of getting the information in. There we are. Now, having completed this, what I now want to do is the suitability letter. So in order to do so, I simply go through to the Experido console as before, and here we have our suitability protection letter. Now, this is, again, our interpretation of suitability letter. It's just, you know, for test purposes, but it's the principle that counts. The fact that we've got the ability to take all of the data that's come back from my pipeline, all of the documents that have come back from my pipeline, and then merge all of that information into our own document, which is presenting our information in our brand, the way we want to present it to our clients. And here we have it. So you can see all of this information has been pulled back. And again, we can see not only is the data in there, but also the quotes themselves have been moved or merged into that suitability letter.
And I assume this could be sent via DocuSign as well?
Absolutely, it's just part of the process. So you can decide precisely what needs to happen. It's really just thinking through the process that you're going through and the most efficient way of getting to the end result. But if you think about it, in the last sort of 15, 20 minutes, we've taken you from an inquiry on the website. We've gone through basic qualification. We've converted you to an account and related contacts. We've created and sent a client engagement letter. We have then done an AML validation check with all of the records being held back against the household, and we've given you a piece of advice, all within one process. And again, it just shows you by thinking through exactly what you're trying to achieve, you can introduce high levels of business efficiency, you can ensure consistent client outcomes, and you can minimize your risks. So fulfilling those three core drivers for business change. And that's really what CURO is all about, all contained within a single truth. And that's really all I'd like to go through today, if that's okay. Have you got any questions?
No, not from me. Thank you very much.
Not from me, Ryan.
Anybody else? Richard?
Not from me.
A couple of questions, Roland. Is it possible to have two records open at the same time in different windows? Because I noticed you said about when I'm working on one client and somebody else wants wants to create a new lead or whatever. But what if I just want to look up somebody's on the phone and I want to look up their data?
Absolutely, you can do so, no problem at all. And one simple way. So, for example, here, if I'm working on the Tempest household and I wanted to go to another record, I could either pop out that into a separate window or a separate tab. That's just the browser setting. So, for example, I could just pop that out like so. That now is the Tempest household, and again, that could open as a separate tab, and I can then do another query. So absolutely, however you want to manage it, you can manage multiple windows within the system as well. I've just got this set up as basically flowing from one system to the next, but I could open up any number of tabs.
Okay, and you mentioned earlier that it was because of the screen real estate, it was designed to be accessible from any device. So can I use it on a tablet?
Depends on the tablet. Yes, I've used it on an Apple iPad. It's okay. We're currently looking at apps and how that could be deployed at some stage in the future. No plans yet, but yes, it can be accessed via browsers on a tablet. If you're using the Surface device, then no problem. I believe I'm right in saying, aren't Apple? Are you not now able to run full browser capability on the latest iPad Pros?
iOS 13, you can, yeah.
Yes.
You can. You can. Fantastic. So there you go. So yes is the answer.
Okay, great.
Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen?
No, not from me. I think there's obviously a lot to learn there, but it seems really, really powerful and yet fairly intuitive. It's just all driven from those drop-down menus at the top.
Fantastic.
That was excellent.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody, and we'll speak soon.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Good job.